What's up, guys? What's going on? Welcome to episode number 22 of the Spun Today podcast. I am your host, as always, Tony Ortiz. Thank you guys in advance very much for listening. This episode of the podcast is another free writing episode. Getting back to the free writing a little bit here. And for those of you that have listened to the podcast in the past, you know what the deal is. And for any new listeners, just to give you a little context, there's a couple different types of episodes that I release here on the Spun Today podcast, which are the type that you're going to listen to now, which is free writing session, which is basically me reading something that I wrote previously that I free wrote from a section of my website, which is spuntoday.com/free writing. Pretty much it's like quotes or pieces of a song, or usually excerpts from a book that I'm reading or something like that, that inspires me or resonates with me in some way, shape, or form. And then I free write after that. And for those of you that are not familiar with free writing, it's pretty much putting a pen to the paper and just writing, not necessarily something that's like formulated or anticipated in any way, or you know what I mean, like it's not like a structured essay type of thing, and you just let it flow and just write whatever comes to mind, and that's pretty much it. So that section of the website is spuntoday.com/free writing. There's a bunch of posts there, and each of these free writing episodes, if you look back like in the feed, I'm reading like a different post, 2 or 3 different posts from the past, all of which again can be found on the website. And normally I have an intro, which is this portion right here where I introduce shit and just give you guys some current events a la Spun Today, just like recent shit that's going on with me personally, or just keeping you guys updated with shit, followed by like the free writing portion, and then an outro, all of which is unedited, raw, like off the cuff type of stuff. I have a few bullet points of shit that I write down during the week that I think might be interesting to speak about, but that's pretty much it in terms of structure. That's pretty much to stay true to what I enjoy and like best about podcasts, which is just that raw type of connection that you get from listening to different podcasts, and it kind of feels like a behind the scenes kind of like insider type of thing, at least to me anyway. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's one version for you new listeners of the podcast that I released. Another one is an audiobook version of certain short stories that I've written in the past. Just to warn you, they're not the greatest short stories out there. I do enjoy writing, but it's not a new hobby, but I'm newly, or as of not too, I'm not a seasoned writer, put it that way. But I do definitely enjoy it. I've dabbled with writing a few short stories, any of which you can read at spuntoday.com/short stories. And then a different type of podcast episode that I release is an intro, followed by an audiobook version of these short stories that I've written in the past. And that I actually do edit and put some like background music to it and sounds and shit like that, and try to enhance the story and try to actually make it sound legit, like an actual like audiobook would, and then followed again by a regular outro. And then sprinkled in between, there's some like conversations that I've had with my brother or my fiance and stuff like that. And actually upcoming sometime in the near future, I should have the first author, I guess, guest on the Spun Today podcast. I mentioned in the past that I want to reach out to anyone who is either a writer or just creative and passionate about whatever it is that they do and that they're into, that would like to, be on the podcast. Definitely reach out to me. Let me know. Hit me up on Twitter at Spun Today, and we'll definitely set something up. I put out a 5-question survey. It's located on the website as well at spuntoday.com/questionnaire. And I've tweeted it a bunch of times also. So you guys should definitely easily be able to find that. And it's pretty much 5 questions for anyone to answer, anyone who's into anything that they're passionate about. And 5 questions just to check it out. In a previous episode, I read the questions and gave you examples of my answers. And it's a way to share what it is that you're passionate about and your insights. And I feel that hearing something like that, I know at least for me, it's definitely gonna help motivate me and give me personally tips and pointers of, oh, this writer does that this way, and that artist paints during these times because of this and that, and shit like that I feel could help other people that are passionate or creative in some way, and they could adapt and take in certain things that they could apply to whatever it is that they're working on. So if it's something that could be useful to me myself personally, as well as to others that listen to the podcast. So I put this questionnaire out, and again, you guys can fill it out on the website. It's 5 questions. It's a free text field, so you can fill it up with whatever the fuck you want. And I will share your responses on the podcast. And there is an option, if you want to remain anonymous, if I'll share your insights and stuff like that, but I don't have to mention who you are if you don't want me to. And of course, if you want me to, I definitely will. And it's a way for you guys to promote whatever it is that you have going on, as well as being able to share with others the insights and just tips and tricks that you've come across with your going through whatever journey it is that you're going through, whether it be comedy or writing or whatever it is. So I actually put that out there, and an author reached out to me, whose name actually I reached out to him, I believe, on we're already following each other on Twitter, because I follow a bunch of different writers, and I started putting the survey out there. He actually filled it out, and I'm gonna read it towards the end of this episode, so you guys can take a listen. It has some pretty good stuff in there. His name is David Christoph. He is a science fiction and fantasy author who's written at least 3 different books that I know of, which are the Tales of a Dying Star series. It's a book 1, book 2, and book 3. You guys can check that out. It's available on Amazon, and I'll get a little bit more into him and his survey, again, like I said, at the end of this episode. And we should be setting something up, some sort of Skype interview or something like that, down the line sometime. Like I mentioned to you guys in the past, I am pre-recording the next, 2 episodes that you guys are going to listen to. This one, which I'm recording today, is, what's today? The 27th of May, 2015. And it comes out next week, Thursday. That's when this episode comes out. Then 2 weeks after that, I'm going to put out an episode that was pre-recorded a long time ago. It's actually the first podcast that I ever recorded with a buddy of mine, Steve, from Florida. And I'm going to release that one. It's just a shooting the shit type of conversation between me and him, and wanting to just dabble in in podcasting and see what it would be like to actually record something. So this is literally my first recording ever, and his as well, if I'm not mistaken. And it was done on my iPhone. The quality is not that great, but it was pretty fun. It was pretty cool to do. And I recorded like an intro and outro for that as well. And I just had that episode stashed. I'm gonna release these 2 episodes that way in advance because, like I mentioned to you guys before, I'm going to India. Actually, tomorrow is my flight. Tomorrow night, and I'm gonna be there for a few weeks for work for my day job. So that being said, I don't want to throw the podcast schedule off, so I'm releasing these to give you bitches something to listen to while I'm gone. And definitely, hopefully, we'll have some interesting stories for you guys when I get back. And I'm taking my MP3 recorder out there, plan to be doing some recording while I'm out there as well to fill you guys in on the trip. So, with that said, let's see, I have a few points here, things that I want to speak about real quick before I get into the free writing portion, which is Memorial Day. I hope you guys had a good Memorial Day. I actually spent it in Massachusetts with my fiance and her family. Had a pretty good time. It was pretty cool. We go to this like farm that has like homemade ice cream over there, well, quote unquote farm. I haven't like actually seen the cows or anything like that, but I guess like they have a farm and they ship in the ice cream or some shit from a different location. But point is, the ice cream is off the hook. It's really good, and they give huge portions. Like a small is literally like, I don't know, like a super extra large or some crazy shit. So you get like a tiny ass little cone with like 8 scoops on top of it, and it's like really, really good ice cream. So we went there, we had a barbecue, and did the whole Memorial Day stuff. So I had a pretty good time. Hope you guys did too. I did regret not seeing the UFC fights this past weekend, which was UFC 187. I really, really wanted to watch that card, but didn't because I was doing other things over there. But I still haven't seen it. I still want to like rewatch it or watch it, like a re-airing of it, and I'll probably download that shit actually. Don't tell anybody. The fights, from what I read and from what I've heard and little clips and shit like that, were really dope. Weidman defended his title and like solidified his, I guess like any doubters that were still doubting him, after his 2 victories over Anderson Silva and then Machida, which I guess you shouldn't have doubters at that point. And now just definitely not. Definitely did his thing. Cormier pulled out the victory over Anthony Rumble Johnson, which was surprising to me. I thought it was going to be like Johnson all the way. And Johnson supposedly rocked him in the first round. And like to the point that it was like, oh fuck, it's going to be over. Because he's one of those like Tyson type, knock you the fuck out really quickly type of fighters. And one that, of course, people were saying was going to be the one, quote unquote, to bring it to John Jones before Jones got kicked out of the UFC. And Cormier, who got his ass kicked handily from John Jones, was fighting him. So I thought it was going to be all Anthony Rumble Johnson, but Cormier did his thing, stuck to his wrestling, and aside from that setback in the first round, supposedly dominated like the entire fight, and then submitted Rumble in the 3rd round. So that must have been dope to watch. And what else? I know there were a couple other fights. Demetrius Johnson I wanted to see. He won also. Benavidez won as well. It would be interesting to watch those two go at it. But not Demetrius. Demetrius is Mighty Mouse, right? The champ. I'm thinking about the other dude. Fuck, I can't think of his name right now. Super, like, he's always like smiley and really, really hyper. One of those little like 125 pounders. It'll come to me, but I want to see that fight also. Uriah Hall, I wanted to see. I like watching him fight, and he lost in a split decision, if I'm not mistaken, which sucks. And I've been following him since like he was in the Tough House, and yeah, I think he's exciting to watch. But he keeps, he's not like pulling off those W's. I don't know what's up with him. And my boy Donald Cerrone, I fucking love watching Cerrone fight, and he seems like such a cool, humble, down to earth, fucking like chill dude. Even all the guys that he's ever fighting, even like in the pre-fight press conference, like they're always like cool and chill and hugging each other and happy, and he even gets along with people that he's about to fucking fight and kick each other's asses, you know what I mean? And after the fight, and he's won now 8 fights straight. So it's definitely a good look for him. Hopefully he gets a title shot soon. And yeah, it was a fucking stacked card. Sorry I missed it, but yeah, hopefully you guys saw it if you're into that. And if not, then I guess you're not missing anything then, right? What else? I saw a pretty dope movie, which I heard of it on Joe Rogan's podcast. The Joe Rogan Experience, for any of you who have been living under a rock within the podcast community. It's one of the dopest podcasts out there. Definitely check that out if you haven't yet. But they mentioned it in that podcast, this movie X-Machina, which came out, I guess, fairly recently. And I saw it a couple weeks ago. I want to say maybe 2-3 weeks ago, maybe. And it was really fucking good. I want to watch it again. That's how like good it was, because I was like a little distracted. My mind wasn't completely into it, but it was still like a captivating movie. It was about artificial intelligence, and it was really cool the way I feel that they showed like all the, I guess, like positive possibilities of artificial intelligence, and at the same time we're able to show all the negative possible repercussions to artificial intelligence, like within the same movie, and like karma all around, like sprinkled all around it for like each of the characters. And it was really cool. It was interesting the way it played out, and it was an engaging movie. Like, it kept you into it like the entire time, and it didn't drag. It wasn't boring or anything like that, which movies like that sometimes can be. And I definitely want to watch it again. There was some like ill quotes in it also, that I definitely want to go back and watch, like specifically for that as well. I remember like trying to write like one down on my phone when I was watching it, and I didn't get it in time, but yeah, definitely want to rewatch it. And what else? So have you guys seen the fucking Going Clear documentary? It's on HBO right now. It's about Scientology. If you haven't and want to see some fucking whack job motherfuckers, check that shit out. That shit is wild. It's crazy how brainwashed people can get. And I mean, I guess it could happen to anybody, but wow, it's just fucking, it's like mind-boggling. It really is, like, just to see those, like, several people's like first-hand experiences with Scientology, and it's like several interviews of people that were in it for like 10, 12, 13, 15 years, and then left the church, and then they were quote-unquote disconnected from all their loved ones and stuff like that. Like, there was this one lady saying that she realized all the like the behind the scenes, like literally like brutality and like fucked up negative shit that was going on behind the scenes of the church. And they're putting out this like positive like facade, basically, which is all being enabled by this like warp dude that took over for Ron Hubbard when he died, which is a whole nutcase job in and of itself. Guy that used to write like sci-fi books and pretty much spawned a really popular like religious text. What's it called? Dianetics. I guess it's like the Scientology Bible, and it became really popular, super like bestseller, and got this cult following that really turned into like an actual cult, and eventually turned into a religion, and they got religious status by pretty much the IRS was like looking into them for tax evasion, into L. Ron Hubbard for tax evasion and not paying taxes and shit like that. And he got, or actually I think the guy that took over for him got like a couple thousand of the members of the church to take out class action lawsuits against the IRS, all at the same time, to pretty much have the IRS having to take care of these like legal fucking lawsuits. And the IRS decided to grant them church status, meaning that they were going to be tax exempt from federal taxes. Like all churches like don't pay taxes and shit. And then like all the members miraculously dropped the lawsuits, and it's fucking nuts. And then it became like a actual established legit religion. It's just as whack as any of the other ones, but fuck, it's fucking nuts. Yeah, definitely check that out if you guys haven't. And that's pretty much it for in terms of like intro shit. Like I mentioned before, have this questionnaire out. It's called it's called the fucking questionnaire. It's located at spuntoday.com/questionnaire. And if you could just go to spuntoday.com, at the top you have like all the like little tabs and shit, and you'll find the questionnaire tab on there. Click on it. It's literally 5 questions, and it's just asking you like about your craft and what motivates you, and what do you do when you don't feel motivated. How do you get yourself to actually sit down and do the work, and et cetera, et cetera. It's like that type of shit. Definitely fill that out if you guys are interested in me reading your responses at the end of the podcast episode, which I am again going to do today at the end of this one, for the first one that we received, so that I can share with you guys. So let's keep that shit going, and feel free for anybody who's into anything. Aside from that, as always, follow me on Twitter at Spun Today, or on Instagram at Spun Today. And you guys can listen to all the episodes of this podcast on YouTube if you like. They're all available on YouTube. To get to the YouTube page, just go to my website, spuntoday.com. And towards the bottom, you will find links to YouTube. You can also find links to Tumblr down there. And you can just click on them and listen to all the episodes on there. Also, if you subscribe to my newsletter at spuntoday.com/contact, at the bottom of that page, if you subscribe to the newsletter, I will hit you guys up and let you know whenever there's like a new podcast episode that came out, or a new short story, so you could be the first to know, and you could be the coolest kid of all your friends. And yeah, it's pretty much it with intro shit. Now, I'm going to read. Let's see where we at. An excerpt from a book that I'm reading now, which I have read in the past. I read, I think the previous free writing episode actually had an excerpt from The 50th Law by 50 Cent and Robert Greene. And this is another one that kind of got to me and inspired me to free write. So if you guys go to spuntoday.com/free writing, you can literally take a look at what I'm going to be reading, and read along, check out other ones if you want to. If not, just listen. I'll read it to you. So here we go. He starts it off with Robert Greene starts it off with a quote from FDR, which is one of his like most famous ones. We have nothing to fear except fear itself. like an excerpt from that speech, and then followed with something else that he wrote. And here it is. It's quote, "Let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror, which paralyzes needed efforts to convert retreat into advance." And Robert Greene goes on to say, "What Roosevelt sketched out in his speech is the knife's edge that separates failure from success in life." So I read that, and it made me free write what I'm about to read to you guys right now. This is another one of those. I was reading on the train on my way to work in the morning, and wrote this shit on the train right before I got off. Actually, remember, I almost missed my stop. Actually, I got into like writing this piece, and then I was at my stop, and fucking had to run out with like my pen and notebook and book in hand and shit before even putting it away. Right before the doors closed. Alright, so I went on and wrote, "I've come to realize that life really does boil down to a collection of moments. Within those moments, we're confronted with the opportunity to make a choice. Left or right, red pill or blue pill, black or white, or every shade of gray and nuance in between. What we decide to do and not do quite literally dictates how the story of our lives plays out. It sounds pretty obvious now that I see it on the page. Why wasn't it clear before? Take a microscope to any aspect of your life right now. Family, personal relationships, work, health. In each of those dynamics, when confronted with a, quote, knife's edge, unquote, decision, did you make the right one? Did you retreat or did you advance?" There's a Dominican saying that I've heard from my family growing up: "Para atrás ni para coger impulso," which I guess can't be a blanket statement to apply in all situations, because you should stop and take a step back every once in a while just to reevaluate and reposition yourself. But at its core, on a macro scale, the ideals of that statement couldn't be more true. Keep pushing forward. Don't let fear retreat you. Reverse that and retreat from fear. Focus your efforts toward your type of success and keep advancing." I wrote that on May 7th, 2015 at 9:05 a.m. So something that stands out to me from that piece is that Dominican saying part, which is "Patrani pa coger impulso." Damn, I sounded mad hick right there. Mad cibaeño. "Patrani pa coger impulso, hermano. Para atrás ni para coger impulso," which basically means don't take a step back, not even to like gain momentum or something like that, loosely translated, which is applicable. It has its applications, right? In a general sense, like, just grind it out, keep going, keep pushing forward no matter what. Don't look back. And that's I guess like a testament to that, like, advancing portion of the excerpt up there. But at the same time, it's not always applicable, right? Because sometimes you do have to sort of kind of like reevaluate shit and readjust, and not just have that head down, keep grinding forward type of mentality. Sometimes you have to do a little maneuvering and readjusting in life, which could be seen, I guess, as like retreating, but not like in like an inevitable type of retreating, like I'm sorry, not inevitable, not a definite type of retreating. Maybe you take a few steps back again to like reposition yourself, and then to be able to gain even more footing to continue pushing forward in the general direction that you were headed towards to begin with. I know you guys have had situations like that in your lives. I know I definitely have. And yeah, so I guess reevaluate shit when necessary, but at the same time don't have a defeatist attitude towards it just because you're reevaluating something, just because you're taking a pause or a slight step back. Don't lose sight of your goal, the overall goal, the focus of the situation, and always have that in the back of your mind as like the motivating factor to whatever it is that you're doing. Because that's what I get from this scenario. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Let me know what you guys think of that post. You guys can comment directly on there on the website, spuntoday.com, right under this particular post, or you can email me, which is at spuntoday@gmail.com, or hit me up any of the other ways that you guys normally can. So, now I'm going to pull up the response to the first survey that we have to share. Give me 1 second. Got it right here. And again, this is from David Christoph. You guys can follow him on Twitter at David Christoph. David spelled David, Christoph with a KRISTOPH. David Christoph, at David Christoph on Twitter. And again, he is a science fiction author and writer of a trilogy of books here. It's the first one is Tales of a Dying Star, Book 1, subtitled Siege of Praetor, Praetor, Praetor. The second one is Tales of a Dying Star, Book 2, which is the ancillary. And Tales of a Dying Star, Book 3, which is Sword of Blue. I like that title there. And pretty much the way this is going to work, I'm going to read the survey question followed by his particular response and share with you guys. Obviously, David chose not to remain anonymous here, which is why I just gave you guys all his name and stuff like that. Reach out to him on Twitter if interested, and definitely check out his books that I just mentioned. So the first question in the survey is relating, or not survey, I guess, questionnaire, or whatever you guys want to call this. It's relating to your craft. Do you remember the first thing you ever wrote or created? And David responded, "Oh man, it was awful. I was in high school, maybe 15 or 16 years old, and had just, sorry, I'm butchering this, and had just the first 9 books of The Wheel of Time. So of course I wanted to write my own epic fantasy. I wrote a battle scene first. It was the most generic, amateurish, overly purple thing. Pretty much what you would expect someone's first writing attempt to look like. I looked at it a year later and hit the delete button hard." That's cool. That's pretty funny. Thanks for sharing that with us, Dave. And I'm sure we could all relate to that. Anybody, like I mentioned, for me personally, and I'm sure anybody who's gotten into writing or creating anything can attest to that. When they're first starting and something they look back on and they're like, oh fuck. Even now, to be honest, some of the stuff that I've written that I definitely won't post on the site is complete trash, and it's what the fuck doesn't even make sense to me sometimes, the next day when I read it. But you got to go through all that type of stuff, and it's all part of the experience and part of the journey, right? And we have to get through that stuff to hopefully get to some good inspiring shit. who was it? Ernest Hemingway. One of his quotes, which I like best, said, 99. No, what is it? The first draft of everything is complete shit. So yeah, and that was from Ernest Hemingway. So there's a writer worth his salt. All right, question number 2 here on the questionnaire. What inspires you to write or create? And David wrote, I like telling stories. Whenever I'm consuming media, whether it's TV or radio or reading books, my brain is constantly thinking of stories. I write down all of my ideas in a giant spreadsheet and pull from it whenever I'm looking for something to write. That's an awesome idea. And Dave, I definitely appreciate you sharing that with us. It's everybody has their own like style of doing things, right? In terms of writing, I've come to learn and realize just from my own writing and just listening to different authors like David or different authors on podcasts, writing specific podcasts that I listen to, or other podcasts where authors and writers have been on that explain like their creative process. There's no like set way to do it, or right way to do it, or wrong way to do it. However you do it, it's how it gets done. So you see from this example, David puts all, different random ideas on a spreadsheet, and when he sits down to write, he pulls from those ideas and expands on them. I do something similar, not as organized, which is why I definitely like this idea, because I like the idea of centralizing everything in one place like that. But I have like a couple different apps on my phone, one of which is Evernote, which is awesome. Another one, which is just a regular like notepad thing that comes with the iPhone. And there's a third one, which, what's it called? I'll tell you guys right now. Day One. I use all those plus like actual like hard copy notebooks, and I jot down ideas in like all of those. So whenever like I feel like writing, I don't know what to write about, I go back to ideas that are, they could be as long as like one sentence to like a paragraph of, write a short story about blah, blah, blah. Or just like a one sentence, something that just popped into my head that I think sounds cool and could be like a possible line of a character in a story down the line that is not yet created. So however you personally go about doing it, do it definitely whatever works for you. And you can borrow from David's idea there, which is pretty dope. The next question is, what is a hobby that you have that is unrelated to your craft? And David wrote, I'm a triathlete. As soon as I read that, I was like, holy shit. That's like some next level hobby right there. That's pretty awesome. And he says, I completed Ironman Florida in 2013, which is a 2.4 mile swim, followed by a 112 mile bike ride, followed, by the way, I mentioned in previous podcasts, I did the 5-borough tour in New York City, which is like a yearly event thing. And that's 40 miles or 42 miles or something like that. And I was exhausted at the end of that. This guy does a 2.4 mile swim, followed by a 112 mile bike ride, and then followed up with a marathon, like at the end of that. He says, you start at 7 a.m. and have until midnight to finish. I crossed the finish line around 8:45 p.m. Not terribly fast, but hey, it was my first time, so I just wanted to finish. I definitely hear that, and my hats off to you, buddy, for going through all that. That sounds awesome. It sounds like a really cool experience and something you could definitely look back on and be proud of. And that's that question. And I have question number 4. 2 more questions left, guys. This question is, how do you get yourself to sit down and do your work when you're not motivated to? This, to me, is a really important question, both for myself, and it's somewhat of a consensus that I see amongst writers and a lot of other creative types, where you really love doing something, but it's like a bitch to actually sit down and do it and do the work. So hopefully different answers to this question, including David's, which I'm about to read, help motivate us, and we can take, bits and pieces from all the responses that we get through these questionnaires, and hopefully help generate more of what we love to do. So David's response here is, I make writing a habit, like a second job. I wake up every morning at 4 a.m. and write for 2 hours before I go to my day job. I don't browse the internet or check my email or do anything else. I devote that time just to writing. Outlining helps. I create detailed outlines before I ever sit down to actually write. That way, when I'm not feeling motivated, or if I have writer's block, I still have a guide to help push me along. That's awesome. I love that type of dedication. And that ability to make yourself stick to a schedule, which is something that I'm definitely going to have to implement. I was doing I'm still doing this like big washboard calendar thing that I have here right above me in front of my computer here. And it's just like a calendar, and each day has either a check mark or an X going through it. X's are for days that I didn't write, and the check marks are for days that I did write. And I'm a visual kind of person, so seeing that every day, if I see a bunch of X's, it makes me want to write. And sometimes when I'm like on a really good run where I've written for like 5 days straight or something like that, and I don't want to break that streak, so that makes me continue writing. And then conversely though, when I haven't written for 3 or 4 days in a row, that I'm in a slump and I'm like, fuck, I haven't written for 4 days, what's one more day, and fuck, I don't feel like writing, shit. So yeah, that it's kind of like a double-edged sword. It helps a little bit, sometimes it doesn't. So I read something like this with David and his idea of that he's implemented of making it like a second job and an actual habit, forming a habit of waking up at 4 a.m. and sticking to a specific schedule. And that sounds awesome to me. Sounds like something that is necessary if you're going to take writing or anything that you're doing like this to any like degree of seriousness. And let's be real, we can't, obviously there's like so many writers out there that aren't doing this for a living, that aren't making money off this. And we have bills, we have necessities and shit like that, and we have day jobs which are draining, and usually like 9 to 5s and cubicle jobs, and just the whole like the monotony of it, and climbing that corporate ladder, and that type of shit, or anything else that you do. Maybe you have like more of a hands-on type job. Maybe you're a waiter, maybe you're into fucking construction. Regardless of what, it's all time that's taken away from you following a passion that you might have, and that hobby, that part-time hobby that you have. And then life gets in the way as well, on top of just having like a big chunk of every single day of your life like taken away and devoted just to doing jobs to collect checks and pay the bills. And then things, you keep like pushing things off, and they go to the back burner. And if you don't make a conscious effort and make a conscious decision and put forth the effort of doing something like this that David mentions here, of setting a schedule for yourself and forcing yourself to stick to it, and so you make it a habit and form that habit, you're not going to grow it. You're not going to grow that part-time hobby into something significant, really. I mean, you might get lucky, the fuck do I know? Could definitely happen. You could also hit the fucking Mega Millions or Powerball tomorrow or some shit like that, you know what I mean? But you really want to bank on that? Neither do I. So setting a schedule for yourself, I don't know about waking up at 4 a.m. I'm definitely not a morning person, but do what works for you guys. I'm definitely gonna look into doing something like that as well. So again, Dave, thanks for sharing that. And lastly, we have question number 5. Question number 5 is, do you have any advice for other writers or creators, whether they're new, seasoned, or otherwise? And David goes on to write, make writing a habit. If you only write when you're feeling inspired, you'll never finish a novel. Writing is work, capital W-O-R-K. It takes practice and dedication. Write every day, read every day, get better. Just like a baseball player taking batting practice or playing catch, everything you do in this regard makes you better overall. And again, that's an extension of what David mentioned before. And, forming that habit, getting into the habit of doing something every day, and really approaching it in a practical sense of building it up and working at it. He uses the analogy there of a baseball player, in batting practice and playing catch and stuff like that. It's all different tools to help expand and better his game. And that's the exact type of approach that we should be taking if we're going to take what we do seriously, and don't kid yourselves. Like I definitely did for a very long time of, I'll get to it eventually. Oh yeah, when I have time, I'll write the next great American novel, and I'll do it in the weekend or grind it out or some, like crazy shit like that. Like, it doesn't work that way. You should put in the effort and dedication that it deserves, first and foremost, and just like anything else, you get out of it what you put into it. So if you're not putting shit into it, you're not getting shit out of it. And that's pretty much it, guys. That is the 5-question survey and answers. Again, thank you very much to David Christoph for taking the time to fill that out and sharing his insights with us. You guys can follow him on Twitter at David Christoph. That's David, D-A-V-I-D, Christoph, K-R-I-S-T-O-P-H. And again, check out his books, Tales of a Dying Star, Book 1, Book 2, and Book 3. All available on Amazon and Kindle. And that's it, folks. That's the episode. Episode number... What is this one again? 22. Free writing session. Episode 22 of the Spun Today podcast. Again, I'm your host, Tony Ortiz. I really appreciate you guys listening. And there's a couple things in closing that you guys can do that I want to mention really quickly to support the podcast. First and foremost, the best thing that you can do, which won't cost you a damn thing, is rate and review the podcast on iTunes and or Stitcher. Go on there and rate whatever it is that you think about the podcast. Preferably a 5-star rating would be appreciated, and it helps the podcast gain exposure. It puts more people onto it, and generates more viewers. Another thing that you can do to support the podcast as well, financially actually, if you would like to, which does not cost you, again, anything at all, is go to spuntoday.com/contact. At the top of the contact page, I have a little Amazon banner. If you guys click on that, it'll take you to Amazon, where you can do all your Amazon shopping the way you normally do. And it does not cost you anything at all extra. You guys could check if you don't trust me for whatever reason. And pretty much the way it works is that Amazon kicks me back a few pennies on the dollar for anything that you purchase, just for going through my personal portal there. And that's just for driving traffic to the website. So it definitely does not cost you anything extra at all. But Amazon does kick back kind of like a referral free type of thing. And that'll definitely help out. That'll be much appreciated if you guys can do that. There's also a PayPal donation button on that page if you guys would like to donate to the podcast. And you guys can also, the last, quote-unquote financial way to support the podcast would be to check out crated.com, crated.com/spun today, where I have all the pictures that I take that I have on my actual website for free, or on Instagram, which is available there for like digital download. This website, Crated, what they do is partnered up with them, and they pretty much give you printed copies of any photos that you'd like. Like if you want to like a big poster or like a little frame or whatever of any of the pictures that you might like, you can do so by ordering through that website. And yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it, guys. Aside from that, the usual, follow me on Twitter at Spun Today on Twitter, at Spun Today on Instagram. Like the Facebook fan page, facebook.com/Spun Today. Subscribe to the newsletter, which I mentioned in the intro, as well as the YouTube and Tumblr pages. And that is all, folks. As usual, substitute the mysticism with hard work and start taking steps in the general direction of your dreams. Thanks for listening, guys. I'll check you guys out when I come back from India.